Hello my friends, over the last few weeks I've been doing my best games of 2025 in all different categories. Top 5 lists, top 10 lists of categories like strategies and family games and 2-player games and cooperative games and all that. Just recently I did my best games of the year, which was the #1 game in many different categories of games, even more categories than what I had done in those previous videos. But today we're doing my absolute top 10 games regardless of category in 2025. So here we go. Before I get to the moment you've been waiting for, I wanted to tell you about the Sell Trade program at Noble Knight Games. Now as gamers, we all have games that are cluttering our shelves that we either don't have the right group for or might even not like it. Well, now you can turn those unappreciated games into cash or store credit. Noble Knight Games buys thousands of games and gaming products. It's easy to send them a list of the games that you'd like to sell or trade. Now they'll send you a quote and even pay for the shipping of the games. Get treated and paid like royalty while you sit back and collect cash or store credit. To get started, click the link in the description of this video or in that upper right corner there, and then click the Sell Trade button.
Number 10
is called Ink. Now this is one of those sort of games similar to say like an Azul or thing like that, where it's like you're doing some drafting of tiles and then you're building your own thing. Now this game's a lot nicer than Azul, I would say, because you can't really totally hoe someone by sticking them with tiles they can't have and getting a bunch of negative points. But in this game you're moving around a rondel and you're gathering a tile and you're putting it in front of you and you're building up this big sort of painting of all these abstract ink blots. And in this you're trying to basically finish goals where they might have a circle with a number in it. And if you've made a contiguous group on that turn that has that colors in there, you're going to be able to place your ink blots on that one and all the other spots that the circles that are in that group. The trick is that you start with a card that has 2 colors that you prefer, and you're really focusing on those because you have a supply of ink that you're placing out. Half of that is just for those 2 colors, and if you run out, you basically have to waste a turn to take wild ink and move it to those ink. So you're trying to focus on certain things. You're trying to move around the rondel, but you can't just jump around, because if you jump too far, every time you pass the start spot, you're going to get a sort of a random X that makes you block off a certain spot on a color. You don't know what it is until it comes out. So the game is really good because there's also these things. If you have these big turns where you have 4 or more that you get to do in one turn, you fire off a bonus, and those bonuses change each game. They're randomized, and there's lots of different ones. And so you have different abilities, different things you can chain together. You can actually set yourself up to have like multiple combos triggering on the same turn, which is kind of cool. But if you like those sort of games where you're drafting things from a community, but then building your own thing, you're trying to basically race to run out of your inks, great game, Ink.
Number 9.
This next one was actually released last year at Essen with a limited release, but it didn't come to retail till about March of this year in 2025 for North America. So this is a 2025 release for me here. This is Rebirth. This is a Reiner Knizia tile-laying games. I know he has a lot of tile games and they all feel somewhat similar but somewhat different. Same here, but it is very good. This game has basically 2 sides. It has a Scotland side and Ireland side. The Scotland side, the game is very simple. You basically draw 1 tile and you place that 1 tile pretty much wherever you want, which sounds kind of limiting, but there's actually it's still very engaging. You might be placing tiles that are food farms or energy farms next to them, and you're building contiguous groups of those because you're going to be scoring each time you place there. You're going to be scoring a point for each of your pieces in that group. So people are going to be seeing you're doing that and trying to cut you off from your group so you don't keep running away with a bunch of points. You'll be putting in things to have the most influence at settlements, and your settlement tiles will have different amounts of influence on them. And so once it's full, people are going to get points depending on how much influence they have. There's castles there. Whoever has the most tiles surrounding a castle basically puts their castle on there, and it's kind of like Longest Road in Settlers of Catan, where like you have the castle now, but someone else might get more tiles than you. They have to sort of pass you, having more of them, and then they get to put their castle on them, and that's going to be worth points at the end of the game. There's also cathedrals, where like you place adjacent to gain secret mission cards. You can have, there's 8 cathedrals, so you can have at the most 8 different things that you're going to try to figure out and do, and that gives you a lot of different strategy, and it's going to change every game. Now the other side of the board, the island adds like public missions. It adds these round towers where there's these tower bonuses And when you place there, you get the bonus tied to that certain tower. And you might be getting bonuses that allow you to score more points or draw more tiles or play a second turn in a row or getting a mission card or doubling mission points or things like that. So the second side is a little bit more thinky, a little bit more sort of bite to it. But both of these are simple. Draw a single tile, place that single tile, here's all the goals, go. And it just works so well together, and that's Rebirth.
Number 8.
All right, now this one obviously is a game I love, has a ton of interaction. It's called Positano. In Positano, you're essentially building real estate on the cliff sides in Italy, and you're trying to have the best views of the water there. And so this game is a very clever sort of simultaneous secret auction mechanism where things are going to be coming available, the types of tiles, and they're going to do different things. They're going to allow you to build in certain spots. They're going to allow you to build certain heights. They're going to allow you to do different things. And you're going to flip over your cards, everyone is, and they basically have different numbers on them for the different aspects of the cards. Most of these cards are good at one thing and okay at another and bad at another. So you're trying to figure out which of these three aspects do I really want this turn, like height or position or location. And so you're going to be able to maybe place first. And that's important because you might want the spot that you really need to go to because you think that's a great spot. Or you want that spot because you're going to be able to build higher because of the special ability of that tile, and you're going to be able to build higher and block the person that's behind you. Because you're constantly trying to be able to see out and block people. And the other aspect is like, what kind of roof does it get? Is it bronze, silver, or gold? Well, the golds are worth 3 points at the end of the game. The silvers are 2. The bronzes are 1. And the higher you go, the even more points you're going to get. So you're trying to build tall, gold building tops that can have a great view of the ocean, but so is everyone else. And so you're constantly trying to figure out, what do I need right now? Based upon what's there, what are other people going to do? What is someone going to really take this location from me and block me? Yes, then maybe I need location first, but then now I'm going to get the worst roof, so which means less points. But if I get the better points and I get blocked, it doesn't really matter. So a lot of crunchiness that goes into this, and everything that everybody does on everybody else's turn matters. And there's also an expansion that allows you to play with up to 6 players, and it also allows you to play the 4-player game, sort of the quote-unquote long game, like you can in a 2-player game. It's fantastic. I do recommend the expansion just for that. If you're going to play with 4 players a lot, get it, because it allows you to have more turns in a 4-player game, so it a little bit evens out sort of the luck of the such there. But it is fantastic. Positano, tons of interaction. If you like sort of meanness blocking with some secret auction that is very interesting, Positano.
Number 7.
This next one is from CMYK Games. It's called Hot Streak. This game is a sort of racing and betting game. It's a silly little game where the box pulls out into a race mat, and there's all these crazy racers, like a fish and a king and a hot dog. And there's going to be all these crazy things that happen. They're going to be running around, bumping into each other, swerving, falling down, turning the wrong way, running the wrong way. But you have some influence in the race because each race, you know which base cards are in the game or in that race. Kind of, and then you get to add one secretly to it. But then 3 cards randomly get thrown out each race. So you don't really know what exactly is going to happen, but you have some idea, and then you bet. Before the race starts, you're betting. You're betting on who's going to come in first, second, or third, and you're possibly betting on like a side bet, like, hey, will 2 mascots be knocked down at the same time, things like that. And after the race is over, you win money for your bets, and then there's 2 more rounds. But there's no new cards that come in. Some of them get redealt out to the players, and then you just keep going. So the race sort of morphs over multiple rounds. This is just an absolute blast to play. Probably one of the most fun party games I played in a long time.
Number 6.
Magical Athlete. This was another party game from CMYK Games, and Richard Garfield, the one who did King of Tokyo and Magic the Gathering, was brought in to sort of redevelop and redesign a little bit the game. And this is just such a fun game. It's one of those games where it's like you pick characters and they have these special powers, and then it's basically like an auto battler, where you're rolling and moving. But all these powers and the way they interact with each other are just crazy. And you get to decide which racer goes each race, because each race the points get better and better. So there's some strategy as to which ones you play, the ones that you draft. You go through like a whole drafting period at the beginning of the game where you're drafting which racers are there. Some of them are going to be better with others. Some of them you're not going to want if there's some of the other ones there. So there's some strategy there. But then it's just a dice chuck 'em fun party game. Now this one plays up to 6 players. And again, this is pretty much tied with Hot Streak. They're both amazing games. There's no reason to be like, well, which one's better? Which one should I get? The right answer to that is to get both, because they're both different, similar but different, and they're different enough that you could have both, and they're both like standout games. But the reason why this one sort of gets the nod is because even though it can play up to 6 players, it also has a 2 and 3 player variant that plays very differently. It's much more strategic, where you actually you'll have 2 characters going each round, and you can kind of combo those together, and you get to decide which one goes first and things like that. So there's a slightly different experience that you can play. So like if you were gonna only own one, I guess I would say Magical Athlete, because you can play with a bigger group, but it also plays really well with smaller groups, where Hot Streak plays better with the bigger groups. If you're going to be playing with more than 6 players most of the time, then Hot Streak's your pick, because Magical Athlete only goes up to 6. Hot Streak, you can go till, I think it's 8 or 9, and then there's more after 9. You can play like big, huge party game. So Magical Athlete there did it.
Number 5.
This next one is a game that I'm firstly going to apologize that is almost impossible to get. I actually had to import this game from Japan and paid way too much to do so. This was on the hotness of Board Game Geek for a little while there. It is a cooperative, limited communication card game called Eternal Decks. Now, I have reviewed this, so you can go check it out on my channel. This takes sort of the limited communication cooperative card games like, things like this year that came out that were good ones, was Beasts and Take Time. But you think of any like sort of cooperative game where you have limited communication, a lot of those card games are like 20 to 30 minutes long. And they're usually quick, and they're usually bite-sized, and there's plenty of great ones. The reason why this one really stands out is because it's the first game of this type that I know of, and that I've experienced, that takes that concept and just adds a lot of things around it, a lot more mechanisms, a lot of things. There's 6 different stages you can play, which are essentially like 6 different scenarios that you can replay over and over again, but they all have different rules, different variants, different ways that you're trying to win, different ways you could possibly lose, different cards that come in, different strategies, little mini games that come in. But in the end, you're trying to basically do whatever that scenario does to win, and you're trying to make sure that nobody sort of runs out of cards and can't do anything. So you're playing cards out on a tableau, and you can't play the same number or color next to each other, but there's also different rules depending on which row you throw them in, you put them in, like these ones all have to ascend, these ones have to descend, these ones have to be odd values, things like that. But when you get to the end of the row, you have to unlock a deck of cards of, I think it's 8 cards from an Eternal. And all these cards give you different numbers, and some of them give you special ability, and now you have more cards. So you're trying to make sure that players don't run out of cards. A few times a game, you can pass a card to someone to make sure you don't lose. Because again, if you have no cards and you can't do anything on your turn, everyone loses. So you're working together to try to figure out who's going to play where. What am I going to play this? It is just an amazing game. Next year, in I think September in North America, it's going to be coming out by Portland Game Collective. So you're going to have to wait a little while. But this one is if you like limited communication card games, but you want something that's a lot bigger, a lot more meat on the bone, but still extremely streamlined and elegant, Eternal Decks.
Number 4.
All right, this next one is a straight up no luck logic and deduction game, and I love logic and deduction games. This is called Digit Code, a tiny little game. It's really amazing. It's kind of like a Code 777-ish, where you're asking questions and they're telling you the answers. Basically, each of you will write a code down, 2 lines or 3 digits, and you're trying to basically guess the code the other player has. And on your turn, there's different types of questions you can ask, like, hey, in this row, how many sort of things are filled in? In this column, here. In this one, is there even or odd amount of them done? Is it these numbers? Are they even? Are they odd? All these different ways that you can ask the questions, but it's no luck. Unlike some of these other games like Code 777, where you rely on like lucky card draws as to what the question you can ask, there's certain set questions you can ask, but you can ask them in any order and any one that you want on your turn. And it's fascinating because you're just trying to narrow down and learn through deduction what is the code, and you're trying to be the first one to do it. If you're looking for sort of a quick 15 to 20 minute filler game that's deduction, no luck, crunchy, but simple mechanically, oh man, this thing is excellent. You can also play this one, with friends online. A friend of mine, Sam, has this as well. And we were sort of playing this over FaceTime the other day, and it works. And so Digit Code, if you like logic and deduction, 2-player games, it's fantastic.
Number 3.
All right, here we have a game very loosely based on a very classic book. It's Gatsby. Now, this is designed by my favorite designer, Bruno Cathala, and his tag team partner, Ludovic Malblanc, one of the most underrated game designers in the history of board gaming. This is a quick 20 to 30 minute sort of filler game. But oh my goodness, this game, it has intrigue because there's different characters every game and some of them are removed and you don't know which ones are removed. And you're trying to get like three of characters of the same sort of colored background or 5 different ones to win. And if none of those things happen, you go towards the end of the game and then you score points. So throughout the entire game, much like many of Bruno's designs, there's this tension of immediate victory conditions versus do I go for those or do I go for points? Which one am I focusing on as the game goes on? That can change. But in this game, essentially, it's like worker placement game where there's like different sort of areas you can go to. You can go to the cabaret where it's sort of an abstract game where you're trying to connect one edge of the board to the other edge of the board, but possibly getting certain circles and activating extra abilities. Or you're trying to go up this track, the building track, and again, getting different abilities, getting different characters. Or there's the horse races, which essentially is an area control battle. But again, which one do you go to? Some of them give you abilities, some of them don't. And you're trying to win these different battles in all the 3 different areas to gain characters, which will give you stars, which are points, but also, again, trying to get those immediate victory conditions. There's also some special tiles that you can get that give you some good abilities. Triggering and comboing abilities and turns to do all these powerful things and to hinder your opponent. This game it's basically an abstract game with worker placement, area control, going up a track, and a little abstract puzzle. All in one. And it is absolutely fantastic. I've just been blown away by how good this game is. It was my most anticipated for Gen Con. It lived up to the hype, even surpassed it. If you're looking for a 2-player game that has a little bit of everything, lots of intrigue, Gatsby's it.
Number 2.
Before I get to this next one, I wanted to let you know that I'm going to be launching my Season 14 Kickstarter for my YouTube channel to help raise funds for the channel. Now, this is the main way that I'm able to spend as much time as I do creating content for you. Now, there will be some awesome board game promo cards and some game bundles to get, and I'd really appreciate it if you click the little eye in the upper corner there and click to be notified when the campaign launches, or you can go to Kickstarter.com and search for Game Boy Geek Season 14. So a couple years ago, my strategy game of the year was Revive, and the game was just fantastic. This is done by the same team that did Revive. It is a different game completely, and has a lot of new concepts in it, or different concepts than Revive, but it also has a bit of a familiar feeling where if you've played Revive, you'd go, hey, is this done by the same guys that did the same team that did Revive? It's like that. So this is a strategy game called Recall. I think in North America it's not coming out till, springish or something like that. It just came out in Essen. Woo! This game is sort of a heavier, it's got a lot going on. In this game, you've got your own sort of board, and much like Revive, you've got some sort of long-term engine building where you're building up these keys that give you actions. But then you're going to get keys that have better actions or more actions, and you're going to be going out on this board. You're going to be exploring and flipping over tiles and seeing what's there. You're going to be going to different places and doing different things, like you're going to be building certain buildings. You're going to be gathering different types of resources that are going to give you points. You're going to be moving around into camps and get everything that's adjacent from them. You're going to be doing these big monuments and building there. There's all these different types of strategies. But what really makes this game fire is you have these tribes that you get one, and you have these gadgets that you get some at the beginning of the game. But as you're going on, you're also moving up 3 tracks of 3 tribe members and 4 different gadgets. And you're getting knowledge. You're getting books and knowledge of these different things, and you're moving up tracks, getting bonuses as you go. And when you get far enough, you get to take some of the gadgets because you know that tribe, and you get to use that tribe's ability. So by the end of the game, you've got 4 different tribes possibly, the one you started with and 3 other ones, and a bunch of different gadgets that you can use to break rules of the game. And these are different every game. There's a ton of them. This is the secret sauce that makes this game really, really stand out. Also, the way that the goals work, kind of similar to Revive, where they're sort of randomized at the beginning of the game. But at certain spots of the game, you have to decide which of these 2 goals am I going to score more for. And usually it's basically like, I'm going to score twice as much for this goal than I will for this other goal. So 3 times throughout the game, you're pivoting, or you're deciding which way you want to go strategy-wise, and you're formulating that throughout the game, and it's just absolutely fantastic. If you liked Revive, you like that weight of game, you like the exploration, you like all these different cool engine building and bonuses triggering, you're gonna love Recall. In my opinion, I love Revive. And it's a little early to tell, but this is at least as good as Revive. I think they've streamlined and made things even better, quite honestly, if that's even possible. Recall.
Number 1.
Before I get to the moment you've been waiting for, I wanted to let you know that Game Toppers is giving 15% off premium game mats and accessories specifically to my US and Canada audience using code GameBoyGeek15 off for a limited time only. Hear more about this at the end of my final thoughts. All right, my number 1. This is going to be very interesting. Now, my last few games couldn't have been more different from each other, right? I mean, you had a little... The last 3 games, you had a tiny little 2-player deduction game that's logic with no luck. Then you had another 2-player game that is very crunchy but quick, and then you had this humongous medium-heavy strategy game. This is also going to be as different as those are to each other. And this is going to be a very polarizing thing. You are going to know by this description whether this is going to be a game that you will either love or you will have zero interest in. And this game is like that. This is a game, I'm not going to say the name yet, that brings the deck construction, card deck construction, and sort of team building as you would with like a collectible card game or a TCG, like, Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, things like that, where you're building a deck of cards. But it also has an auto battler aspect of it, which has been made popular by, say, games like Challengers, which won the Kenner Spiel des Jahres a few years ago. This year, Tag Team was a very popular one. So auto battlers are really popular. And now, and sort of, TCGs have always been really popular since Magic the Gathering. And this takes 2 of those things it puts together. The big twist here, and this is how at least half of you are going to turn this off right after I say this. The cards that you're building, sure, you do have to buy them, but it's not like Magic where the best card, the most expensive cards win. Because the cards that you use are legitimate, actual baseball cards. Yes, like Major League Baseball cards from any era. And the reason why this is my game of the year is because it's one of those things where it's like, I can't imagine how this has not been done before, where you can actually play with baseball cards. It's like, it's not a true simulation of baseball. There's like, I used to play Status Pro Baseball when I was a kid. That's sort of a simulation. There's so many like pure simulations. This is not that, but it is baseball. If you don't like baseball, this is not going to be for you. But the reason why this is number 1 is because I've spent the most time of any game with this year. I've been sucked into the lifestyle of this game. This is a lifestyle game where, like, I didn't have any baseball cards when I played this. And I've reviewed this on my channel, so go check it out. But I had 0 baseball cards. For like $30, I bought 300 closed packs from the 80s and 90s off Amazon. And I went through them, and it's so fun to just either open packs and then do a big pool draft, or open them and do like a sealed draft where you open them up and you draft them. Or you could just build your team with a bunch of pool cards you have. There's so many different ways you can play this game, and the drafting you can do differently. You can do it where you draw. You have a deck of cards. You draw 3 of them. You keep one. You discard the other ones. You keep going, and then you swap discards with the other player, and you're trying to build the best team. Or you can just be like I bought the '86 Red Sox because I'm originally from Boston, and I bought the '01 Diamondbacks, which I now live in Arizona. And so I was able to play my '01 Diamondbacks versus my '86 Red Sox and see what happens. And spoiler, it went to the 10th inning, and Rubio Durazo, who was batting 9th, hit a double that won. Like, it's just crazy. But you can play with different things. You can play with, and there's different levels that you can play. You can play a very simple game where you're just like, hey, just draft the cards based on nostalgia, the players that you like, right? And then just use the most recent stats. But then you can go deeper and say, hey, I'm going to, every person I put, I have to choose which year's stats I want to use, and that can change because it's an auto battler. Essentially, you set your lineup. Now, we talked about the auto battlers of challengers and tag team. This game is an auto battler, but I would argue it has more agency in the game than both of those because not only are you picking your exact team that you want, you're picking your exact lineup 1 through 9. And then you're doing decisions even during the game as well. You're doing, when am I going to pinch hit? When am I going to steal? When am I going to change pitchers? So there is actually more agency than both of those other games. And it's just, and there's, again, different levels. You can play with or without the pitchers and lefty versus lefty matchups, righty versus righty matchups. So like starts to straddle that it's a simulation, but it doesn't go too deep that you can just play it very lightly without all the extra pitcher stuff and with just looking at the most recent thing. So you can get into it very easily. But then if you want to go deeper, you can play with the full rule set, and there's a ton to think about, but it is just a ton of fun. And I have found myself being absolutely lost in this game. I found myself feeling like I was 10 years old again, playing this, looking through all these older cards, bringing me back to those memories of watching the games with my dad. And that's the reason why this is number one. And for people that like baseball, I think this has the opportunity to do the same thing for you. And obviously, if you don't like baseball, you turned this off many minutes ago. So that's my number one baseball card GM. Well, I hope you enjoyed this top 10 of 2025. Again, you can go back and look at all the other videos I recently just did on many categories, top 5s, top 10 lists. So if you really like family games, go check out the top 10 family games. If you really like strategy games, go check out my top 5 strategy games. And going on 2026, if you want to see more from me, go ahead and hit that subscribe button below. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships with board games, by helping you on the next one you love.
Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, being the one table to rule them all with Game Toppers, leg kits, dining covers, premium game mats, and more. And for a limited time only, my US and Canadian audience can get 15% off their premium game mats and accessories using the promo code GameBoyGeek15off. Also, go to GameToppersLLC.com to check out all the options or for worldwide late pledges of their recent 5.0 Kickstarter.